When I was thinking about what to talk about today, I really started thinking about how I can help you during this time if maybe you are struggling with anticipating some uncomfortable gatherings with family members, because human design really shows us how we interact with each other and how we're best suited to interact with each other. Human design reveals who you are energetically and who you came here to be. I'm Dana, human design specialist.
And I'm Haley, the human design newbie. Listen in as we explore how leaning into your authentic self is your ultimate path to success. Welcome to the Human Design High podcast. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm so glad you have decided to join me once again. I say me because, excuse me while I adjust my microphone. I am flying solo again today on this episode. Haley is moving today, but I was with Haley last weekend, and I wanted to tell you all a little bit about last weekend, which was super exciting for me on many levels. But I did go visit her in Charleston last weekend because one of my mentors, teachers, and somebody I just admire and respect so much was speaking in Charleston. There was a little workshop that we attended with Marianne Williamson at the Sophia Institute in Charleston. And I know I've mentioned it before. I have campaigned for Marianne back in 2020 and spent a year listening to her. Well, not quite a year, about 8 months, listening to her speak quite frequently to large and small gatherings. But those were definitely campaign issues. And it was really nice this weekend to be in the presence again of one of, I think, our greatest teachers in this generation, spiritual teachers. And it was just really great to be back in that energy of learning about ourselves and our own personal journeys, our personal development. And really, she's a teacher in the Course of Miracles, which I am a student of and I have talked about before. And I wanted to kind of share little, not nuggets that I learned from this weekend, but it got me thinking this weekend about when I got into this work with human design, how much it really just started making all these connections in my past experience with everything else that I've learned, all the other thought systems that I have studied and trained in, Course in Miracles being one of them, that there's so much overlapping in the teachings of Course in Miracles and what human design actually shows us in the body graph and through the knowledge that was brought through in human design. It's all very much, as it says in the Course, there is one truth. And it doesn't matter how you come to that truth, but there is only one truth. And that truth really is that there's just one of us here. We are all here together in our own unique expressions of our talents and personalities and all that. But really, we're all connected. And that's what I mean by there's only one of us here. We're all connected. It teaches this to you in just about every religion. It's the whole golden rule. Do unto your neighbor as you do unto yourself. What you reap, you'll sow. All these things where it really does matter what we put out in the world, because that's what we receive, because there's really only one of us here and we're all connected. And so just a lot of the things that Course in Miracles talks about and I've seen in human design, I kind of wanted to bring it all together in today's episode as we approach the holidays and talking about holiday stress and how to really navigate these times. So as time of this recording, it's about 2 weeks to Christmas. and we're all feeling the buzz in one way or another. For some of us, it's a very exciting time. We really look forward to Christmas. Some of us don't look forward to Christmas, or we like Christmas, but there's certain things we don't like about the whole Christmas season. I kind of fall in that category. I do work part-time in a flower shop, and which is semi-retail. I don't really do a lot of retail, but just kind of assisting and whatnot, delivering. And it, if you've worked in any kind of environment like that before, you know that Christmas season starts way earlier. And for the past couple of years that I've been there, Christmas usually starts around August, the end of August, when everybody starts thinking about what they have to buy and put out there and all that stuff. So you kind of get a little Christmas burnout in a way. That certainly happens. That kind of takes the magic off of it sometimes. But also, I think my idea of Christmas over the years has morphed and changed in lots of different ways. You go from being a little kid and you're all excitement and everything. And then you get a little apathetic maybe in your middle teen years. And then, in your college years, say 20s, holidays is really all about parties and gathering for sure. Then you have your kids and it becomes all about the kids and recreating the magic. And then your kids grow up and it gets a little sad because you start thinking of all the times they won't be around. And then, it's just a lot of different changes. It also, Christmas time makes me quite emotional and sometimes sad. I miss my mom a lot at Christmas. It's been 10 years now since she's passed, and she was one that always kind of brought the magic of Christmas in, and she instilled that especially in Haley. We all know that Haley is our little Christmas elf in the house. So when she's not here for Christmas, which I'm not sure yet if she will be, when she's not here, of course, it doesn't quite feel the same. And I'm sorry if I'm only talking about Christmas. I know there's many other holidays, many other ways to celebrate this season. This is just my experience. It's how I grew up. But I know that in general, this is a holiday time, no matter which way you celebrate. And as I said, it can bring up a lot of happy memories, but it can also bring a lot of stress. If you are a mom, maybe with kids still in the house, it can be extra stressful as moms are expected to really be the ringmaster of all the festivities. You may be in shared households, maybe with families that have to travel between parents at this time of year with kids. That can be really stressful. Like I said, there could be broken families. It could be the first Christmas without a loved one. It could be first Christmas with a new baby. It could be so many things. We put so much into this holiday, and I should say this holiday time, this season, and it can get to us. But I think one of the biggest things that people talk about and worry about and kind of dread sometimes is the family gatherings. Now, you may be like me, and I'm pretty blessed for the most part in my family gatherings. They're not very big. And I don't mean that small gatherings are a blessing. I mean that I say I'm blessed because most of my, I have a very small family, but my husband's family, he's one of 5 children. So it can be a little bit bigger gatherings at times, but we've always gotten along. We haven't had too much drama. And so that is a blessing. But then every family has its sore spots, its pain points. And so we have to learn to navigate those too. So when I was thinking about what to talk about today, I really started thinking about how I can help you during this time if maybe you are struggling with anticipating some uncomfortable gatherings with family members, because human design really shows us how we interact with each other and how we're best suited to interact with each other. But it also shows us in our own designs the areas where we are more susceptible to conditioning. Those would be the open areas, of course. And it kind of can show us where our vulnerable parts could be. And that sometimes can be in those conditioning areas because we feel things more intensely in those areas. And so bringing it back to A Course in Miracles. Now, first of all, I want to say A Course in Miracles is not a religion. It's not a dogma. It's just really a text that isn't trying to convert you into any kind of system or religion or anything like this. The only aim of the Course in Miracles is to teach you how to love and forgive. And it really is a retraining of the mind and the way you think. And it's really steering us away from fear back to love. And that was, of course, Marianne Williamson's first book that she wrote that was the bestseller that got her on the Oprah show, which is A Return to Love, which she'll say is like the Cliff Notes version of the Course in Miracles, which it really is in a way, in her own words. But it is this returning to love. And when we look at the human design system, and what I talk about here a lot is it shows you that you are perfectly designed. You have a purpose. And it says this in the course too. You have a purpose. It is divinely designed, each one of us. And we are perfectly made as we come into this world. And our job is to remember who we are, to return back to love, because the world will put a lot on us that isn't us. That's that conditioning piece. But there's a lot of fear in the world. And a lot of times the thought system of the world might be that the opposite of love is hate. But I think we all are more aware now that the opposite of love is really the absence of love. The absence of love, the opposite of love is fear. And even when you see things that seem hateful, it's really a protective mechanism for a lot of people. And that stems from fear. And that means there is an absence of love. And so when we start remembering who we are, it says in the Course that we are all ideas in the mind of God, and God of your own imagining. It's not any one particular God. I said there's many different names. There's many different approaches and avenues to God. You know, we talk about Gus here, God, universe, source, whatever you want to use, because I like to think that God is love. And so this being, if we are ideas in the mind of God and God is love, then we are expressions of that idea. We are expressions of love. And as I said, we all have this unique role to play, and human design shows us we all have different roles, we have different missions, different purposes, but ultimately our true purpose, each and every one of us has this same purpose, which is to be ourselves, be authentically ourselves, expression of that love, and then to extend that love out to one another. And that's also what the holiday season is about. I think that's why we have so many feels this time of year, is because it's that one time a year, I believe, that it feels very present in all of our hearts, either that bursting with love, that yearning for love. And that's why I believe that the God is love, because it is the one thing that is present in all of us, is this deep-seated yearning for love. And that's because love is our creator. And that's what I believe. And so this brings us to the forgiveness part in A Course in Miracles. Really, the miracles that it's talking about says miracles occur naturally. This is when we are the miracles. When we meet, when we are open to love and we are extending the love, that's where the quote unquote miracles can occur. And a lot of time that miracle is just a shift in perception. It's a shift in how we see each other. And that's how forgiveness occurs. And so this is a very, very deep topic. It has many layers to it, and I am totally surfacing it right now, because what I really wanted to get to is the parts where I can give you some action pieces here of how to actually navigate these tricky times and gatherings, so that maybe you can have a more peaceful holiday time and avail yourself to miracles. How's that sound? Okay, so we tend to get caught up in old stories when we are around our families. Even in good relationships with your families, there's still going to be some pain points, some areas that are a little stickier than others. And they don't have to be big disagreements or anything, but it's really, case in point, as I said, my mom's passed, but when she was alive, she, even as I grew into an adult, she sometimes tended to only remember me as the person I was when I was about 16 or 17. I was rather surly and a little bit rebellious and quite moody. And I didn't see myself that way, but I do believe, well, I do know she had an open solar plexus. So I have a defined solar plexus. So now I know that, oh gosh, I'm sorry. Maybe she was picking up on that. And I wish I could share this information with her now. It would be so different. But I mean, we had a great relationship, but still there were times that, especially as I was growing my own family and she was a part of that, mothers tend to always mother, even when their children are grown. And I'm trying to be mindful of that, but boy, it's just really hard. And so there would be times that she would just grate on my nerves because I felt that she only saw me as a teenager, and then she probably picked up on that and felt that energy, and that caused her to try harder to make me happier. And it felt like she was always tiptoeing around me, and that would make me even crazier. And the more she tried to please me, the more it annoyed me. I'm sure there's somebody out there that can relate to that. Maybe that's you. I'm sure you can. And it's hard because sometimes I knew it was happening and sometimes I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't realize it until much later when I really couldn't do anything about it anymore. But anyways, I have that understanding now, and I hope to help you guys with that as well in your own families to see how we can make this a little smoother for us. So one reason that we get caught up in these stories is because we're always bringing our past into the present. And the past is only in your mind. The only thing that we have now is the present. And nothing ever changes if you're always living in the past. So we've got to stop dragging the past into our present, because you're not creating the future that you want, which is a more peaceful, loving relationships in your family. And so whatever you think is real about your past or present, whatever you think is real is going to have a real effect in your life. So if you are still holding on to these stories from the past, memories from the past, giving those things meaning, then that's going to have an effect in your life. But what I'm here to tell you, what the Course tells you, and a lot of spiritual teachings will tell you, is that in the present moment, which is the only moment that we have, every moment you have a choice. Do you want this to continue? The situation that you're in, the way you're feeling, do you want this to continue? Ask yourself, especially if you're in conflict with someone in the moment, do you want to be right or do you want to have peace? Do you want to be right or do you want to have a miracle? And that miracle is seeing this person differently, seeing the situation differently. It's about being in this present moment right here, right now, as they're standing in front of you. You can do differently. You can choose differently. You can think differently. You have that choice. And that is the most empowering place to stand, is to realize I can choose differently. I can be different in this moment. I can be a different person than I have ever been at any time. They may see me this way, and because they see me this way, I tend to behave that way because I'm living in the past too. But I'm going to choose to live in the present moment and be the person I am today and the person I want to be in the future. And that's where those miracles occur is when you make that choice towards leaning towards love and away from fear. So how do you prepare yourself to stand in that space? Well, I know it's not going to happen overnight. It took years for me to do this. I still forget a lot, as we all do, because things happen so fast, right? If you're not preparing yourself, you're more likely to slip up in these situations and just keep perpetuating this pattern. But when you start a practice of one mindfulness, meditation, whatever that looks like for you, that is about slowing it down, right? It's about taking those few beats before you react. It's acting with intention, maybe not just reacting to everything and just, firing off every time somebody says something. It's about learning to cultivate that place inside of yourself that is at peace and understands that you can choose differently for one, and you can take your time. You don't have to immediately react to everything. So hopefully you are already starting some kind of meditation or mindfulness practice, even if it's just a few minutes a day. If you want some help with that, you can look back a couple episodes. I did ones on observing the emotions. There's one that's just observing the breath, some very simple meditations that can help assist you with that. But I have a few other just little points here that can hopefully assist you with this as well. Like if you're just starting today, you're like, okay, I want to do this Christmas or holiday thing differently this year. I want to be with my family, my friends, whatever your gathering is. I want to have a good time. I want that feel good feeling at Christmas. What can I do? Well, we're going to start right here. I'm going to give you a few things to contemplate, practice, and hopefully it'll help. So first thing, like I said, you have about 2 weeks here. I want you to spend the next 2 weeks being really intentional. I want you to be really intentional about how you want to feel in these gatherings and practice that behavior. That's going to mean probably sitting a few minutes every day in the morning, especially. That's the best time. It's when you haven't had the day pile on you yet. Sit in a meditation, cultivate the feelings that you want to be feeling as you gather with your friends and family. You don't have to think about your friends and family at this point, or just family, whatever it is. You don't have to think about them and that emotion at the same time. Just try to cultivate the emotions you want. I want to be joyful. I want to be happy. I want to feel love. I want to be at peace. Just practice saying those words silently to yourself in your head. Peace, love, joy. Feel how that feels to you as you sit there and breathe, and just practice those feelings first. So you get really in touch with them and start cultivating and bringing those energies in more to you. And then also, if you know that there is someone in particular, or someone's, more than one, that you will be seeing this holiday season that you maybe have a grievance or a past with, before you get there, to prepare yourself. An athlete doesn't just get to the Super Bowl by just saying, I want to play football, and then suddenly they're in the biggest game of their life. No, they practice. They have many games. They have to really train themselves to become that athlete, right? This is what we're doing here. We're training ourselves here to be more aligned with love. And so if you know that there's someone that you're going to be seeing that you have a grievance with, I want you to be very specific here. I want you to, in this time that you spend every day, maybe not at the same time as your mindfulness time, but sometime during the day, every day, thinking about this person, not what they did to you, not all the arguments you had, none of that. I want you to just close your eyes and in your mind, picture this person happy and whole. And I want you to send them love. And this is helpful. I promise you, it's really hard at first. And you may have to do this after the holiday season, extend it even more every day. I have done this practice and it really, really works. I just imagine the person that I have a grievance with. I picture them in my mind's eye and I say to them, I love you, whatever their name is, and I release you to the Holy Spirit. Now, just let me say this one thing. If you have a problem with the words Holy Spirit, you don't have to say that. It's fine. You can come up with whatever version. I release you back to love. I release you into the arms of the universe. It does not matter. These are the words I used from A Course in Miracles. And it's a practice that I was taught through A Course in Miracles. And if it helps at all, the Holy Spirit, it says in the Course in Miracles, Holy Spirit is your higher self. Okay. It is that higher understanding of yourself. It is your higher self. So if that helps, that's just the practice I would use is I love you and I release you back to the Holy Spirit or into the hands of God, whatever you want to say. Love and release, love and release. And what it says in the Course, and this is true, you do this practice for at least 30 days or so, one or two things will happen. You will really feel differently about this person. Whatever grievance you had might not matter that much anymore. And even if that doesn't happen, you just really won't have as much emotional energy around this person. You'll either forgive them or you just won't care anymore. Honestly, I mean, that sounds kind of maybe a little harsh, but that's the truth of it. You either forgive them or it's just not going to bother you anymore. So you only have 2 weeks. If this is the first time you've heard it, it's not useless to try and do it. You know, it's worth a shot. The intention here is just to really send them love and release them, because it doesn't help you to hold on to the grievance, for one, and two, this is your part in the situation. This is you doing what you can ahead of time to help alleviate this issue. So we got that one down. And now here is where we're going to bring human design into it a little bit. We're going to talk about the open centers here. So if you examine your own chart and you look at the areas that you probably receive the most conditioning, which is what we talked about in the open centers, because those are the areas where you are receiving energy, amplifying it, reflecting it back. So it feels very real to you and more intense to you. If you are to look at your own chart and see where your open centers are, you can kind of contemplate these these questions I'm going to pose to you now about the open centers. And you can do this work ahead of time. You can really examine, like I said, those relationships that you might have issues with, and look at your open centers and then contemplate these questions and see if maybe this dynamic is at play in this relationship. So if you want to write these down, you can go ahead and pause this, grab pen and paper, and I'm just going to go through each center and just give you something to ponder here, okay? So questions for the open centers are as follows. So if you have an open head center, remember this is a pressure center. It's about questioning. And so if you have an open head center, maybe ask yourself, am I trying to answer everyone's questions? And do I feel pressured to answer? Now, a lot of us out there have undefined heads. So there's a lot of this going on of thinking that we have to have an answer for everything. Are you always trying to come up with an answer? Do you feel pressured to answer? Is that a dynamic that's at play in these relationships? If you have an open or undefined ajna center, are you maybe defending decisions you've made? Are you trying to be certain or convincing people that you are certain of decisions you made, choices you've made? Or certain in the sense that you feel that maybe you have certain disagreements back and forth with people? Are you always trying to defend your point of view? Are you defending yourself? Just ponder that. open throat, undefined throat, maybe ask yourself, am I trying to attract attention so I can be heard? Maybe this is something you've heard in your family. Maybe they have said this to you, that you're always trying to be the center of attention. Is that true? Is it an effect of your open throat center? Can you change that behavior? Of course you can. You can just wait to be asked. I know those open throat centers think you're never going to be asked to speak, but it works. It's energetics. But anyways, just ask yourself, are you trying to attract attention so you can be heard? If you have an undefined G center, are you questioning your lovability in these situations? Are you truly being yourself, or are you adopting personalities of those around you? Do you notice that you behave differently when you're in a family situation than, say, in other friend groups? It's quite possible with the open G center. But really the question here is, are you questioning your lovability in your situation? If you have an undefined will center, this is a big one here for a lot of us. A lot of us have this undefined. Are you trying to prove your worth or your value? Do you do things when you are with family that is a proving behavior? How much can you do? Are you bringing the best gifts? Are you making the most food? What is it you're trying to prove? Because you have nothing to prove. Remember, open will center, you have nothing to prove. But are you trying to prove yourself and your worth? If you have an undefined solar plexus, this is a tricky one too. In these family situations, half of us are defined, half of us are undefined. So there's a lot happening here, especially in these established relationships at the holidays, a lot of emotional energy. Are you avoiding truth and or confrontation? Are you people pleasing? Are you shutting yourself off from feeling anything? Really look at that emotional solar plexus if you're undefined there, and your relationships. Now, like I said, it's 50-50 chance here with people in the room being defined or undefined, but there's still going to be a lot of emotional energy there, and you're not always going to know everybody else's chart in the room. So it's good to know your own chart and where you're operating from, especially in this emotional solar plexus. If you have an undefined sacral center, question you need to ask yourself this holiday season is, do you know when enough is enough? Especially maybe if you have an undefined sacral and an undefined will center, you may be pushing yourself to the point of exhaustion. Are you trying to prove yourself with that undefined will? And if you have an undefined sacral, are you aware of your own energy reserves, what you have to give and what you don't? Are you adopting sacral behaviors in the sense that, are you not taking time for yourself? Are you pushing past your limits because you're around sacral energy? Do you need to say, I need a break? Maybe you wouldn't be so short-tempered or hurt if maybe you had a little more rest or a little more time away from all that sacral energy. If you have an undefined spleen center, are you holding on to things longer than you should? Are you holding on to things that aren't good for you, aren't healthy for you? These are questions that you need to always ask in relationships with the open spleen, undefined spleen. Are you holding on to things that aren't good for you? What can you release? And finally, the root center, this adrenalized center. Ask yourself, am I in a hurry to get things done so I can be free of pressure? Are you the one at the holiday gathering who is just not enjoying themselves and rushing around and doing all the things and volunteering to take on more and more and more? And are you doing that just to get rid of this pressure you feel? Are you adding more things to your to-do list than you need to do? You're never going to get it done. So let yourself off the hook for that one. So you can contemplate, reflect on past behaviors with these questions. See maybe how they're impacting you during the holiday season. Like if you know that you get a certain way at the holidays, maybe it's behaviors in yourself that you would like to change. Maybe look at those open centers and these questions we just talked about and see if maybe some of that is at play. And then also when you are in contact, physical proximity to other people in your family, if you've contemplated your open centers and some of those questions and some of the themes there, you could then just kind of watch your interactions with a new eye and see where these things are showing up in you. And as you do that, if you see that happening when you are actually around your family with certain members of your family and realize that maybe some of these things are at play, or that maybe you're bringing your past into this present moment, you can say to yourself silently, I am willing to see things differently. That's all it's got to take, is that choosing in that moment that we talked about earlier. Choosing in the moment, being ready for the miracle by saying, I'm willing to see things differently. So it's a challenge, but I think you're up for it. Okay. And lastly, before you go anywhere this holiday season, you probably might want to do this every day, but this is a good time to practice it. Before you go out in the world, before you get into a meeting, or maybe you're going to work or a family gathering, whatever it is, it's also good to take a few minutes to bless everyone that you know you're going to meet, and even those that you don't want to meet, or don't want to meet, even those that you don't know you're going to meet. If you could actually just take this moment before you walk into mom and dad's house or grandma's house or aunt's house or whatever, to literally just blast everybody there with love. And you may roll your eyes at this one. You may think I've, just all this talk about love, but I don't know. You're here listening to this podcast, so you're a little more open-minded. But this one is this is also just energetics. It is shifting the tone here. It's going in there with the intention of being that extension of love, we said. And if you smooth the path ahead of you by blasting everyone with love or light, whatever you want to imagine, it's really interesting what happens. It really is. Because remember, we are all, no matter what we think is going on with our heads or what's, our mind is telling us is happening in this moment, our energy is always communicating with each other. They say our auras extend about 6 feet out from the body at least, right? So that energy is being felt ahead of you, around you. And if you are coming from this heart space and this place of just sending love, as in taking a moment and say, the love in me sees the love in you. The light in me sees the light in you. That is the namaste. Consciousness in me sees the same in you. Spirit in me sees the spirit in you. If you can really take that to heart and extend that out in front of you, everywhere you go, you will be amazed at what can happen. Miracles really can occur when you take that position in life. You can do this everywhere you go. You don't have to limit this to the holiday season, but this is a good time to practice it, because you're going to be probably interacting with people more than you do the rest of the time of the year. And so it's a good time to practice, because this holiday season, however you celebrate it, is all about gathering. It's about families. It's about love. And this is a time for love to really shine. And you are an extension of love, and you are here to share that. And so those are my 3 tips. That was a lot to say 3 tips, but that's what I do. I do these practices. I try to remember them as I go throughout my day. It's challenging, I'll be honest, because it's so easy to allow the mind, the ego, to have the best of us, right? It's our default. It's what we're used to. But if you're here listening, it means you are also someone that wants to try to do things differently. You're here to learn more about yourself, because I believe if you're listening to this podcast and you're interested in human design, it means you're interested in getting to know the best version of yourself and being the best version of yourself. And I think people only do that because they want to make the world a better place. They want to improve their lives, their relationships, their families, their businesses, all of that. I think that if you are someone who is interested in this, it's not just for yourself. I mean, it makes, you can get to know yourself better and love yourself better. But I know that only people, I think, that are interested in then sharing that with the world and making the world a better place are people that look into personal development and try to make themselves the best version of themselves. So I applaud you for that. And I thank you for allowing me to be a part of that as you do your part to make the world a better place. So thank you for listening today. I really appreciate you being here. If you have any more questions about A Course in Miracles or some of its teachings, you can certainly reach out to me. You can email me or DM me on Instagram, which my handles are in the show notes always. But I would love to share more with you. And you've heard me already talk about it a little bit, and it's going to be peppered throughout because I really do believe that that work and all of the other practices I've learned along the way and human design, they're all beautifully linked and support each other towards that one truth, right? So I would love to share more with you. You'll probably hear more about it. But for now, I'm going to leave you be. And I hope you have a wonderful week. And I can't wait for you to come back next time. And until then, thank you very much. Appreciate you. You made it all the way to the end of today's episode, so you must have liked what you heard. If you did, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an episode, and perhaps leave us a good review. And if you know someone who wants to dig into all things human design with us, make sure you share the Human Design Hive podcast with them. We'd really appreciate it. Thanks for listening.